Chapter 2 of The Last Trail. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mike Venditti, MikeVenditti.com. The Last Trail by Zane Grey. Chapter 2. Colonel Zane, a rugged, stalwart pioneer with a strong, dark face, sat listening to his old friend's dramatic story. At its close a genial smile twinkled on his fine dark eyes. "Well, well, Shepherd, no doubt it was a thrilling adventure to you," he said. "It might have been a little more interesting, and doubtless would, had I not sent Wenzel and Jonathan to look you up." "You did? How on earth did you know I was on the border? I counted much on the surprise I should give you." "My Indian runners leave Fort Pitt ahead of any travelers, and acquaint me with the particulars." I remembered a fleet-looking Indian who seemed to be asking for information about us when we arrived at Fort Pitt. I am sorry I did not take the fur trader's advice in regard to the guide, but I was in such a hurry to come, and didn't feel able to bear the expense of a raft or boat that we might come by river. My nephew brought considerable gold, and I all my earthly possessions. "All's well that ends well," replied Colonel Zane cheerily. "But we must thank Providence that Wetzel and Jonathan came up in the nick of time." "Indeed, yes. I'm not likely to forget those fierce savages. How they slipped off into the darkness. I wonder if Wetzel pursued them. He disappeared last night, and we did not see him again. In fact, we hardly had a fair look at him. I question if I should recognize him now, unless by his great stature." He was ahead of Jonathan on the trail. That is Wetzel's way. In times of danger he is seldom seen, yet is always near. But come, let us go out and look around. I am running up a log cabin which will come in handy for you. They passed out into the shade of pine and maples. A winding path led down a gentle slope. On the hillside, under a spreading tree, a throng of bearded pioneers, clad in faded buckskins and wearing white-ringed coonskin caps, were erecting a log cabin. "Life here on the border is keen, hard, invigorating," said Colonel Zane. "I tell you, George Shepherd, in spite of your gray hair and your pretty daughter, you've come out west because you want to live among men who do things." "Colonel, I won't gainsay I've still got hot blood," replied Shepherd, "but I came to Fort Henry for land. My old home in Williamsburg has fallen into ruin together with the fortunes of my family. I brought my daughter and my nephew because I wanted them to take root in new soil. Well, George, right glad we are to have you here. Where are your sons? I remember them, though it's 16 long years since I left old Williamsburg." "Gone. The Revolution took my sons. Helen is the last of the family." Well, well, indeed that's hard. Independence has cost you colonists a big price, as border freedom has us pioneers. Come, old friend, forget the past. A new life begins for you here, and it will be one which gives you much. See, up goes a cabin. That will soon be your home." Shepherd's eye marked the sturdy pioneers and a fast diminishing pile of white oak logs. "Oh, heave!" cried a brawny foreman. A dozen stout shoulders sagged beneath a well-trimmed log. "Oh, heave!" yelled the foreman. "See, up she goes," cried the colonel, "and tomorrow night she'll shed rain." They walked down a sandy lane bounded on the right by a wide green clearing, and on the left by a line of chestnuts and maples, outposts of the thick forest beyond. "Yours is a fine site for a house," observed Shepherd, taking in the clean trimmed field that extended up the hillside, a brook that splashed clear and noisy over stones to tarry in a little grass-bound lake which forced water through half-hollowed logs into a spring house. "I think so. This is the 4th time I've put up a cabin on this land," replied the colonel. "How's that?" "The redskins are keen to burn things." Shepherd laughed at the pioneer's reply. "It's not difficult, Colonel Zane, to understand why Fort Henry has stood all these years, with you as its leader. Certainly the location of your cabin is the finest in the settlement. What a view!" High up on a bluff overhanging the majestic, slow-winding Ohio, the colonel's cabin afforded a commanding position from which to view the picturesque valley. Shepherd's eye first caught the outline of the huge, bold, time-blackened fort which frowned protectively over surrounding log cabins. Then he saw the wide sweeping river, with its verdant islands, golden sandy bars, and willow-bordered shores, while beyond, rolling pastures of wavy grass merging into green forests that swept upward with slow swell until lost in the dim purple of distant mountains. 16 years ago I came out of the thicket upon yonder bluff and saw this valley. I was deeply impressed by its beauty, but more by its wonderful promise. Were you alone? Had my dog. There had been a few white men before me on the river, but I was the first to see this glorious valley from the bluff. Now, George, I'll let you have 100 acres of well-cleared land. The soil is so rich you can raise 2 crops in one season. With some stock and a few good hands, you'll soon be a busy man." "I didn't expect so much land. I can't well afford to pay for it." "Talk to me of payments when the farm yields an income. Is this young nephew of yours strong and willing?" "He is. He has gold enough to buy a big farm." "Let him keep his money and make a comfortable home for some good lass. We marry our young people early out here. And your daughter, George, is she fitted for this hard border life?" "Never fear for Helen.